Hey everyone, today we're going to look at 3 different ways of playing bass with marbles. So I have a programming wheel here. Here are the 3 different designs that we're going to test out in this video. The first version are these simple hammers. The marbles are hitting the felt pads and these hammers are hitting the bass strings. The second version is really cool. It emulates a human finger and how a human finger would play the bass. So when the marble presses here on the lever arm, it translates to a very special motion over here at the tip. So the tip is first going straight, but on the backstroke it's lifting itself. So it creates this arc. I'm pretty stoked about this version. The third version is another kind of hammer, but this hammer is pivoted right here, which makes the hammer behave a bit more intelligent. Which design do you think will sound best? Well, we're going to find out in this video. Let's start testing version 1, the simple hammers. This design is inspired by the Hammer Jammer, a cool device that lets you play the strings of a guitar or bass by hitting some pads. To design it, I took a photo of my bass, traced all the lines, and then I had a digital version of the bass guitar. And this digital placeholder made it easy for me to design the hammers to the correct size. I printed all the parts and then started assembling. I'm rolling this rubber band into a damping pad that is mechanically locked to the bass. Then I'm adding the last sub-assemblies and the whole thing is done. And here you can see the spring tensioning system. By adjusting the spring tension, I hope the hammers will be able to play both soft and hard notes. Seeing the finished design next to CAD, we can see that it looks really identical. When the assembly was done, I put the bass onto a sheet of plywood. I'm tying down the bass hard here to the plywood. While I finish up tying down the bass, I just want to say thank you to all the new YouTube members that joined since last week. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, let's see how this sounds. The blue audio here is from the hammers. And we can clearly see that there's a huge attack right here in the beginning. I don't think that sounds great, this attack. If we compare it to the green audio, you can hear the big difference. Here's fingers, and here's the hammers. I don't think this sounds good at all. What I think happens here is that the hammer doesn't bounce off the string fast enough, so it stays on the string too long and it creates this ugly attack. So far, all the notes have been the same volume, and the idea is that if I tension the spring like this, the volume will be lower. Let's see if we made a difference. Let's increase the tension even more. Even more. Let's try even tighter. Here are 4 hits with different spring tensions. 0.6, 2.4, 6.9, and 4.5. So it kind of works, but yeah, it doesn't sound good. Let's try version 2. Here are my prototypes for version 2, and this design is really interesting. It is inspired by a self-playing banjo at Siegfried's Mechanical Music Museum in Rudesheim am Rhein. And this self-playing banjo blew my mind first time I saw it, because it could pluck the strings and then lift the plucker on the backstroke. And I was like, how does it do that? And then I talked with Lucas about it, and Lucas told me that it's the same function that is used in this Old Tony video. And I love this video by this Old Tony. He's showcasing this push latch mechanism like this.
We want the tip of that wire to follow this track. Watch what happens now. If I push it again, watch how it tracks. Now, if that ain't cooler than me and you put together, I don't know what is.
So this was my first version. I filed down the backside of a screw, and this screw goes in this groove that this Old Tony also used. So here's the second version. And as you can see, it's going straight and lifts itself on the backstroke. And if I lift the pin out of the groove, we can see the groove here resembling of this Old Tony's groove. So the bottom of this groove is in 3D. So when the nail rides the groove, it goes up and clicks down. And by having this groove close to the pivot point, this movement is accentuated at the tip. So the longer we make this, the more movement we have at the tip. So we have this simple runner running on linear rods like this, and then we have this on here, and then we need spring tension upwards. So it wants to pull the nail upwards. So that's the surprisingly simple principle, and I used that to make the last version. There's the groove, and here I added rubber for a more finger-like sound. And lastly, I added the marble pad. So the pivoting motion from the marble is translated to a linear motion, which is translated to this elliptical motion. Pretty simple, but pretty cool. This was so fun to figure out. So with my finger, I would pluck and then lift on the backstroke. Let's see if our mechanism can do that. Okay, version 2 played with marbles. The green audio is finger. The yellow audio is our mechanism. Pretty close. Blue audio is hammers. How can we play soft and hard notes with this system? Well, what we can do is that we can pivot it like this. So if I pivot it out like this, we only hit part of the string for a very soft note. If I push it inwards, we have a much stronger note. These first hammers didn't work well. The beaters stayed on the string too long and made this bad attack sound. So I made a third version. The marble hits the pad, but it can only pivot down there, and then it's a stop in here. This is pivoted, so when the marble reaches the stop, the pivot can continue on like that. So now when this hit point is loose, when it hits the strings, it can bounce off the string right away. Let's see if we can use the spring tension to change the volume of the hammer. So a strong throw. So now the spring is tighter. Let's try again. Let's make it even tighter. That was lower. Let's go even tighter. So I'm thinking that I should have some kind of Bowden cable lever mechanism so I can tighten and loosen these springs while the machine is playing from where I am. So let's see if we will hit the string now. Yes, perfect. A very soft hit. The red audio is the pivoted hammer. I like the sound of that. Let's compare to the solid hammer here. The pivoted hammer is definitely cleaner. So that's all the sounds. We have human playing, mechanical finger playing, solid hammer, pivoted hammer. Why are we not dropping the marbles directly on the bass strings like we did on the original Marble Machine and on the Marble Machine X? One of my major goals with the new machine is that I want it to play dynamic music. So it needs to play both soft notes and hard notes. If it was playing only hard notes all the time, it would sound like someone was talking to you like this. It would be nice to also have access to this kind of musical expression, and not only this all the time. Okay, I think you get it. So, what have we learned? Well, this design is shit. We don't need it. This design is actually very promising, the finger imitation. And this hammer is also really promising. Perhaps even we can make a combination of the finger and the slap. So we can play dynamic, both like that and... So we can get both of those sounds. And there's so much more than actually getting the strings to vibrate. It's also when you pause the note. And there I'm doing a little... And that sound is also super important. And I am planning to program all of that into the bass. So something that does this. 4 independent muting pads, so we can do and mute. And the automatic fingers that can also make the hammer on, which is this. So I strike the string once. And I hammer on the finger. And with all this, I think I can get this bass to play. So, yeah. The design requirement process told me that I needed to do these investigations, and next week I'm gonna continue with the slapping and muting and hammer on stuff. A huge thanks to everyone who have become a YouTube member and supporting this channel and everything I do. Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for watching. See you next week. Ciao.